A mate of mine told me up one day and he said, listen, you know Keith Cunningham? I said, no. He goes, he's the rich dad in Rich Dad Poor Dad. I said, oh, I've read that book about 3 times. He goes, Keith is going to be at this hotel in Hawaii. I reckon you could bump into him accidentally and meet this guy. He lives in the States. I went, really? And so I jumped on a plane, blasted over to Hawaii, rolled up this hotel. The breakfast, I'm thinking, he's going to be here sooner or later. I'm waiting. He comes rolling through the door. I walk past him accidentally. Hey, is your name Keith? Mate, seriously, it was that fucking bad. And he's such a gentleman. He looks at me in his Texan accent. He invites me to breakfast with his wife. And I said, look, I won't sit, but I'd just love to ask you some questions. A little bit like you, curiosity. And he said, listen, come back tomorrow. It'll just be you and me for breakfast. Is that okay, honey? And she's like, yeah, sure. I get one-on-one with this guy. Now, he's a multi-billionaire. He sold his TV channel for $361 million, like in 1982. And then he went bankrupt. And what a great guy to learn from. The peaks, the troughs, the peaks, the troughs. Multi-billionaires in oil, reverse mergers. The guy's got such incredible acumen. The next day, I sit in front of Keith for 50 minutes, one-on-one. And what do you do? It's his first question. Sort of explain very briefly, in case what I do. And he looks at me and he goes, gee, that's not so smart, is it? And I'm thinking, right, okay, what's going on? He goes, that's not so smart. You're one of those guys that sells a lot of time. He starts laughing. He goes, but you're just selling it for more. I went, you're right. He goes, that don't work. I did that. You'll never be wealthy doing that stuff. And although I was making $1 million a month back then, it was very clear that you had to put energy, capital, risk, all that was being managed by your energy resource input. It was all driven by one thing, you. Got on the plane 2 days later and I came back with about 4 pages of just notes. I'm going to do this, I'm going to research that, I'm going to investigate this. I need to discover a way of making passive cash flow real. Now, back then I knew the word passive, but I didn't have enough assets to really comment broadly on the topic. And he smashed me and just said, you're just like the rest of these fucking monkeys. Wow. You're all out there selling time. You just think you're cool because it's a premium to your time. You're just making a little bit more than most.